Welcome to At Home with Music. We're going to look today at some technical exercises developed by Franz Liszt. Liszt was a 19th century Hungarian composer, pianist, conductor, teacher, and he became very famous throughout Europe during the 19th century because he was like a rock star pianist. And many of his contemporaries believed that he was the most technically advanced pianist of his age, perhaps one of the greatest pianists of all time. He was also well known as a composer, especially after he kind of let up on his concertizing. He was also a piano teacher, he was a conductor, and he contributed very much to the development of music as an art form. He was also a benefactor to other composers like Wagner, Berlioz, Saint-Saëns, Edvard Grieg, and Alexander Borodin. Now, as a composer, he was one of the most prominent representatives of what is known as, and I can't pronounce it in German, but it's called the New German School. I don't know how he found the time to write as much music as he did, but he left behind an extensive and very diverse body of work. And he had a great influence on many of his contemporaries, and indeed, some of his later works anticipate some of the 20th century ideas and trends in music. He also invented the symphonic poem. He also developed the concept of thematic transformation as part of his experiments in musical form and making radical departures in harmony. Now, there's a lot more I could say about Franz Liszt, and in fact, we should devote an entire video to the life and work of this amazing musician. But what I wanted to look at today were his set of technical exercises. Now, the interesting thing about Liszt as a teacher is that he would not accept a student unless that student already possessed advanced technique. He didn't like to talk a lot about how he achieved his amazing virtuosity at the piano. But he did leave us a lot of hints. He wrote letters where he talked about practicing 4 or 5 hours a day, especially when he was younger and was playing the virtuoso and becoming like a rock star of his day. He began to write out many of these exercises and collected them in several volumes. And we're just going to look at the first set of exercises. They are meant to help you achieve finger independence, finger strength, and they can be very challenging. Now, finger exercises in the 17th, 18th, 19th century, a lot of them consisted merely of just holding down notes and playing a note. It's like hold down 4 notes and play a repeated note with the fingers that were not being held down. That was basically it. Very boring. But as you're going to see, Liszt introduced several variations on this exercise to make them even more effective and to help them to work more quickly and efficiently to develop your technique. So I'm going to switch to the overhead camera and we'll take a look at just the first set of exercises in this book of technical exercises that Liszt put together over the years. And I think you'll begin to see, just catch a glimpse of how he achieved an amazing ability at the keyboard. There was hard work involved, there was patience involved, and that's going to be the same for any of us that want to become very good at playing the piano. So I encourage you, it's going to be a challenge. Let's switch to the overhead camera and I'll show you this first set of exercises. Now, you will find these exercises rather challenging, so I encourage you to take it slow, stick with it, and you will see the results. So in this first exercise, we're holding down 4 notes in the right and left hand, and then we're using the remaining finger that is free to play rhythmic patterns. So I'm going to just play a little bit of each one so that you can get the idea. As I mentioned before, these 5-finger exercises originally were just playing a static rhythm over and over again. But Liszt has thrown some curves into it, or some different rhythms. So, The first one is just straight 16th notes, and we start playing very softly. And then it repeats. And then the rhythm changes, and we're getting a little bit louder. And then a little bit louder still. And then we're playing in triplets. And here's where we're playing at double forte, fortissimo. And then we start to get a little bit softer. And then quiet again. Whoops, sometimes it's hard to keep those fingers down. Very quiet. Even quieter. We go back to the 16th notes, but we're going to emphasize a different note with each repetition of these 16th notes. And we start out fairly quiet and then emphasize the first note. And then we emphasize the second note. And then the third. And then finally the fourth. One other thing I want to mention is we don't need to curve your fingers way up like this. They're almost halfway between curved and flat. I mean, we're not playing like this, but we're also not playing this way. Liszt determined that the best way to approach these exercises, and really piano playing in general, was to have your fingers be kind of halfway between flat and super curved. Basically, you want to be comfortable. And as you're playing these exercises, remember, don't tighten your shoulders, don't tighten your fingers. You want to stay as relaxed as you can. Now, the second version of this exercise, we're going to be using fingers 4 in the left hand and 2 in the right hand. This one can be really tough because your fourth finger is not used to doing this much work. We use those same rhythms. Very softly. Now, let me give you a little hint, and this is not part of Liszt's original exercises, but it can be hard lifting that fourth finger while keeping the other 4 fingers down. To make it a little easier, you can lift your 5th finger. Once you do that, because of the way our hands are constructed with the tendons and the connecting tissues in there, and I don't know all the physiological terms, but if you raise your 5th finger, this frees up your 4th finger to move with more. It's got more movement now. It's not restrained as much. So you can do that. And you'll use the same different rhythms that Liszt has put here. So the second version, you're still playing it kind of soft. It's and then you have this rhythm. And then the triplet rhythm. You're getting louder each time. And then finally at fortissimo. Now by this time, you might really start to be feeling some tension and some fatigue in your 4th finger. And so only go as far as you can. When you start to feel some real tension and fatigue, then you need to stop. You do not want to strain. This is not no pain, no gain. This is just mainly exercises that will help you with finger independence. Anyway, As you look at the PDF, you'll see that you're going through those different rhythms again. Then we're going to be doing it here in F major. And we're going to be using the third finger of both hands. And so using those same rhythms. I'm just skipping the repeats. Now, obviously, this could be pretty boring to listen to. You're really just doing exercises, so you probably want to be alone while you're doing these things. It's just like when you have to be at the gym and you don't want anybody watching you. You're basically just giving your hands a bit of a workout here. Then the next version, as you can probably guess, we're going to be using the fourth finger in the right hand and the second finger in the left, starting with this D minor chord. And you can do the same thing here as we did when we were using the fourth finger in the left hand. Raise your fifth finger, and you'll find that the fourth finger now can move more easily. This can be really hard. This makes it a little easier, and the fourth finger gets a good workout that way. Same rhythms. We want to keep an eye on the rhythms and the dynamics. Remember, they start out very soft. You don't want to be just pounding all the time. And then it gradually gets louder. And of course, by the time you reach this version here, it's forte. But if you feel any strain, you need to stop. And so on. And we have one final version. We're in the key of B flat now. We're using the B flat chord. And we're going to be exercising fingers 5 in the right hand and thumb in the left. And it goes from there. Try these exercises if you dare. They are challenging, but they will help you develop that finger independence that will help you to play any song that you want to play.